Our guests today are Emily Schmidt and Eric Leyden from Saro Cider. Welcome, guys. Good to see you.
Hello.
Hello. Okay, so we do need to start off with a clarification, and I'm going to say the name, but how do you say it, and where does the name come from? Is it Saro or is it Saro?
It's Saro as in arrow. And the Saro comes from an aircraft that was built that could do land as well as sea. So it was land, sea, and air. And as our concept is sort of that shared journey, we felt that that was a sort of a good metaphor for that. And as many of you may or may not know, trademarking names is definitely an issue. There seems to be a shortage of available ones. So we had to dig deep for this one for sure. But it was nice when we finally settled on it because hopefully its meaning is us to everyone else, that there was no preconceived thing behind it. And we hear it said all different sorts of ways. And I love how Paige, one of the founders, is sort of responds to that, which is, we don't mind how you say it as long as you buy it.
There's an arrow in the logo. Saro.
Perfect. Thanks for the clarification.
Mnemonic device.
So what is Saro? When did you guys open, and where are you located?
Saro is a cider brewery, little cider house. We're on the corner of 18th and N. We're kind of kitty cornered from the Panic Bar next door to N Street Liquor. We're just a block south of O Street. Opened September of 2018, Eric?
Correct.
2018? You can expand on what.
Yeah, so September 21st, we actually opened in 2018 with our tasting room only. And then in January of 2019, we started selling packaged product, or not packaged product, but kegs out to the city. And then in, I believe, August of last year, maybe before June, maybe, we started with bottled product and have been expanding that role ever since.
So,
and then Emily can maybe talk a little bit more about if you were to come, so I work in the production aspect of it. So I'm the one that's making the cider day to day, and I am doing a lot of the sort of that end of everything, getting orders in or getting orders out through the dock door. But then we are, so I sort of manage that part. And then, but if you were a consumer and you were to come down here and visit, you'd have a different experience than what I experience every day. So Emily, I think, could speak better to that.
Yeah, so actually, why don't you both explain what your role is at Saro and kind of what your day-to-day looks like?
So I am the tasting room manager, sort of just front of house, the more service-oriented side of things. I take care of the bartending side of things, the really exciting stuff, like making sure we have enough paper towels at all times. I've gotten really good at understanding ordering in bulk, which is a bizarre thing to know. But we deal with mostly just staff and customer interactions, selling products, kind of making a hospitable space up here. And lately, it's also been the role of figuring out how to do that without any people being around, which has been a trip.
Eric, what about you?
I think the customer experience of coming into the tap room is one that, there's commonly 9 different flavored ciders on tap. There's cocktails that are cider influenced. We do have some plates of food for people as well. And the atmosphere is one that's a little more light and breezy, a little light and airy, compared to some of the brewery sort of specific, the beer specific tap houses that are, they sort of have their own vibe. And we have beer on tap, and in package for the tasting room, but we're primarily an education for the consumer of the cider that we make ourselves here. So we're, that sort of is the impetus of the tasting room, was to create a space that was unique in its look, but not only that, in how we serve the customer as well.
Right. So Eric, what kinds of things, like what does your day-to-day look like in back of house, like production?
Well, since I've been here since the beginning, I started with the construction aspect, where I was here most days during the construction and build out of all of the things that we needed. And then I was here for the first small batch items. So unlike a brewery, we get our sugar brought to us. We don't press our own apples. We get juice brought to us. So we have sort of there's different styles of juices that we can get, that we can start with an original base that way, or different base juices that allow us to create different products. And then we ferment it out the way that you would a wine. So we throw yeast at it. We have different styles of doing that, and then we rack it the way you would a beer or a wine, but then we carbonate it and do some post blending as well. So that's my main role, but I supervise the bottling line. Emily helps with bottling. We sort of get together and do that. I supervise kegging. I do most of the kegging. I clean the kegs. I clean the tanks. I move product from A to B, but I also am a little bit of the person who I also come up with new recipes and try new things, and do a lot of that, as well as ordering certain products, packaging and chemicals and different things like that are just part of the day-to-day production that you would find in any brew house.
Okay, so like pre-COVID-19, how many staff did you have working, and how were operations different than now?
Pre-COVID, it was just me and another person back there who was part-time, and that role actually hasn't changed much because of the way that we get our juice. I can't just hold on to it. I need to ferment it out, and I need product. And because we're still doing bottled product and selling that to Lincon, Omaha, and South Dakota, there's still a need to continue bottling that product and labeling it and packaging it. So my role, while it has as far as how I interact with the other staff member back there, has been pretty much the same. We're putting a couple of new products in package, so we've been really concentrating on that as well. So thankfully for me, not much has changed back there, outside of I'm not really filling any keg orders. That's the
Okay.
one thing that has changed.
So Emily, what about you as the other side of the Saro business? How how many staff did you have working, and how were your operations different than they are now?
So we already have a pretty small and close-knit staff. The tasting room, if you've ever been, is a little on the smaller side than just a bigger tavern or bar. But we still probably had 5 or 6 employees that were regularly cycled through shifts during the week. On the busier nights of the week, we tried to keep 3 staff persons on, overlapping a little bit for safety, just to handle volume and all of that. And kind of at the beginning of restrictions, and when the buzz kind of started to come around Lincon of, okay, what are we going to do? Things are changing. We've kept open communication with all of our staff. I've talked to the front of house employees, and we let everybody know, hey, if you're not comfortable, that's super fine. So it kind of has worked out that people who felt they were financially able to step away from a part-time job, such as this one, were like, hey, I don't really want to risk it. And like, I'm comfortable doing that. They were able to do that. So now, not only have we drastically cut down our hours, which not only that just cuts down on the need for staff, it kind of has worked out that the staff members whose this was their primary job are the ones who are like, hey, I want to stick around and try and do whatever I can to fit a new business model. And then since we've had to cut hours, that is a difficult thing to do to anybody, and say, hey, it's not that we don't appreciate you and love you and think you're great. We just can't do it. We've been very fortunate, and I think we're probably in the minority of people who it happened to work out in our favor, that a lot of people were like, well, this actually works best for me because I need to focus on doing something else now. So we're down to 2 people who work in the front. It's me and my incredible coworker named Brittany, who's been doing all of our online like web store stuff. And we kind of bounce between the front and the back of house right now. We're helping a lot with production since we're trying to shift our focus to what can we do versus what can't we do. Fulfilling online orders, carry out orders. Her and I take out deliveries. So it's been in a series of unfortunate events, if you will. We've gotten pretty lucky in a few pockets.
So yeah, and I want to hear from both sides from you guys. When the pandemic did become a thing, what were the first kind of steps that you took at Saro to kind of address what was happening?
I think we, first and foremost, try and always keep open and transparent communication between the people, the founders, the owners, the staff, any sort of management, sales. Again, we're a pretty small staff, so that's a little easier for us to be able to do. But the first thing was kind of like, lots of things are happening. There's a lot of information coming all at once. Let's all get on the same page. Let's all talk about concerns, questions, ideas. So the first step was a lot of conversations and a lot of talking and a lot of just like, where do your concerns lie? How do they fit with mine? What can we do to sort of bridge a gap here? And the first steps were obviously like, well, we need to think of the safety of our staff and the safety of our customer base. And that's, I think, where most of our decisions started to stem from, was just the public health concern.
Eric, what about you? What, like you said, I know your operations really haven't changed, but what were, in your opinion, what were kind of the first steps that you took once this thing became a thing?
There was, while Emily was talking, I was really thinking about kind of how did it all sort of fall into place there. And it was definitely, there was new information every day. It seemed like every single time we tried to make a decision, it was, you'd say, okay, here's the plan going forward. And then the very next day, you had to throw that plan away and then try and like roll with that one and see how to do it. And then again, 2 days later, that would change. And so a lot of it was, unfortunately, we can't make a decision, and it was kind of making decisions day by day. And really that was affecting the tasting room, and which was, there was a lot of staff involved with that. And like Emily said, most of them have other jobs. So they were saying like, look, I don't need to work. So that was helpful. But the ownership team really, I think, they took some time to really talk about it together, and how could we figure out how we can move forward and still keep everybody paying their bills at home. And I think that was the original, that was the way that, without that sort of thought from the top down, everything could have sort of imploded, and feelings could have gotten hurt, and things wouldn't have, people wouldn't have been so willing to just roll with that idea that everything's changing at a pace that you've never seen before. But, I think like Emily said, it was really just conversations, just really talking as much as possible and communicating. And that really helped kind of guide everything to where now it seems sort of stable, but now I think we're going to be back into that. That's all going to, that unfamiliar feeling of not knowing what's going on from day to day is about to set upon us again here next week. And so once again, everyone's trying to talk as frequently as possible and hash out different scenarios that we don't know what they're going to be at this point. So, but change is coming again, and we have to be ready for that, and we have to have a plan that we need to throw away as soon as something, as soon as that is no longer viable.
So, Kim, I just want to let you know, I did see your question, and I will bring that up here in a little bit, but what successes are you having? And, I'm going to pull up a picture of the mural because that's really awesome. I know you guys just bottled the original cider, and it's on shelves, and you've also added online ordering. So can you kind of talk about those? I'm going to pull up a picture of the mural too, but go ahead and kind of talk about those.
Yeah. Also, Paige Duncan, one of the founders here, that was fully an effort of hers and Jonathan's. I think she saw the idea from a business in Chicago and was like, hey, we really like what you're doing. Would you be cool if we took inspiration from what you did? Cite your sources. And that was really I think they were the ones that went out there and sandblasted and painted and hyped it up. And so that's a very big, incredible kudos goes to them. I think we as a bar, we do serve food. So technically we fall under a little bit of a different umbrella than maybe just a tavern. We, I think, have been incredibly fortunate during all of this just kind of pandemonium that's been happening. We've been able, I think a huge success is we've been able to keep our doors open this whole time. We have the ability to be able to shift to an online store, we have packaged products. We already had been doing canned products in the store. We have a crowler machine where we can take anything on tap, put it in a can, seal it, you can take it home with you. We had already been working on other packaged products like our Pommeau and our apple honey wine. And so we kind of already were starting at an advantage, I think, from a lot of other service establishments, that we had things that lent themselves very easily for to-go, carry-out, or delivery. And I'm going to echo what Eric said, having the support of the entire staff of, hey, we all have a common goal. We want everybody to be able to continue working should they want to work. We want to keep you financially stable as much as possible. How can we all work together and formulate a plan? And it's been, obviously things would be a lot better if none of this were happening and we just were business as usual. But I think instead of focusing on wow, our sales aren't what they normally would be, I think it's important for us right now to focus on the positive aspect of, for a bar right now in times where everything's closing and people are staying at home, which is great. We're super fortunate, and I think we're doing really, really well, just kind of keeping our heads above water. I don't know if Eric wants to add to.
Yeah, Eric, what do you think are some successes? I hope you guys can see the mural.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so awesome.
I have a question when you're done, Lily.
Okay.
I think a lot of the successes is the amount of community support that we have seen I going into this, I thought that it would just be a complete bust. That trying to do things on a to-go scale was never going to work. People weren't going to be responsive to it. And I think we're getting new customers still as a result of that. People are, we get a lot of repeat customers, but I think that people have really locally, and I assume it's that way in every community, are really seeking things out, like what is local, what haven't, how can I support that business? And so that's been a success, I would say. The other, for us is that we wanted to do online ordering. And, when you're got your blinders on and you're just trying to move forward day to day with things at work, a lot of times those things don't happen. We wanted to do, so we could ship across the country through Vino Shipper. That was something else that we wanted to set up. It's not quite ready to go, but we're doing large format bottles. We've always been willing to sort of take risks on products here. So like the Pommeau, like she like Emily talked about, that was something that it's sort of a dessert style wine that we needed to find somebody to distill some of our cider. So we figured it out, like we've always been like sort of like, what can we do? And just trying it, even if we don't know what we're doing, we're still trying it, and have had some good successes with that. So this is just another thing that's like, okay, well, we don't know how to do online ordering. We don't know if it's going to work, but like it's something we've wanted to do. So let's just do it and make it happen. And it was actually a really successful part of the sales. We started moving more product, like the soft goods. So like T-shirts and tin tackers, like stuff that doesn't really roll all that well. You would have assumed would have never even would have just completely dropped off. But as soon as they're online, people are buying them now. And the ability for people to order something online, it's ready when they get here. Like we've added a convenience to our tasting room that we didn't know it could exist. So there's been a lot of successes that way.
So this is a question from one of the people watching. Were the legal logistics different for a cider brewery than a beer brewery when you guys were looking to open?
Yes and no.
Yeah.
We're technically a brewery with the state of Nebraska, but we're a winery with the Fed. So, try navigating those lines. But as far as like holding having to have all of your caps, your umbrellas, all of that, they're exactly the same as they would be for anybody. And now that we ship across state lines, those change as well. So but we're handling them the same as any brewery would at this point. So legally, cider houses in general, I mean, we go to a convention every year, and there's a talk on how to navigate the TTB when you're a cider house, because they don't even know. The federal government doesn't even completely know how to handle us at this point.
That's kind of exciting.
Unless you like things cut and dry. Yes, it's very exciting.
Just knowing you, I think you like things cut and dry. So, when are you going to get more T-shirts in stock? And then will there be Saro masks?
Are we out of T-shirts?
I didn't see any on the web store.
So we have a disproportionate amount of women's cut shirts, which is code for we're going to make them really wide and really short, and the neck hole really weird, and the sleeves short. So if anybody knows somebody in the T-shirt industry, I have a bone to pick with you. So we have some T-shirts. I think right now, as of yesterday, one of our, so sidebar, one of the weirdly positive things of having suddenly a lot of downtime in the tasting room. For the record, I would much rather have people in here and be talking to people and serving cider. But it has given us time to pay attention to a lot of smaller projects and maintenance type things. So we have the kind of time to be like, well, let's go through and take an inventory of all of the T-shirts and figure out what we have. So right now we're kind of starting to comb through. We're getting to that level of let's count all of the glasses we have and polish them, which is something that's already been done. We polished all the glasses. So
we have
come back, guys. What?
If you want to buy a T-shirt, anyone that's out there listening, we have them. You can come buy
there
them.
are T-shirts.
Lily, thank you.
You're welcome. So moving on, these are a couple more audience questions. What is your favorite Saro cider? I still need to come check out the tap room. I'm going to volunteer my answer for this one. I love Zamora, which is the jalapeno cider. But what are your favorites, Eric and Emily?
Well, my favorite, I will die on this hill. The greatest cider ever made from this cidery was the Bogota Nitro coffee cider. It's incredible. It is so good. We currently don't have it. It's a very long process to make it. And also we can't package it in crowlers. So right now would be a terrible time to have it because nobody could get it. But when we open back up and when it comes back, please come and enjoy it. So I can look at everybody who thinks it sounds weird and say, I told you so.
Eric, what is your favorite cider?
My favorite one also is not available right now, but is the Union HPA. So it's one that I take juice from Nebraska City, a local wild harvested yeast, and then take whole cone hops from Plattsmouth, Nebraska, and it has a really unique sort of body to it, and the hops are kind of the star of the show, but they're sort of muted. I really like that, the sort of the dryness of it. But my go-to cider from day one has been the Valencia, which is also in the bottled. It's a dry cider. It starts with a hop and orange peel addition pre-fermentation, which changes how it ferments out. It's just great. It's very sessionable. It's not too sweet. We do have plenty of sweet ciders, but that one in particular has some complexity to it and a nice dryness level that I really find enjoyable and can have multiple of.
It also is a great sub for.
Sorry, I just really like to chat.
It makes a really great mimosa, I think. What were you going to say, Emily?
If you are gluten-free out there, first of all, my condolences, because same. Second of all, both the Union HBA and the Valencia, those are great. It's not a very, if you think of cider as a commercial, like it rhymes with food chuck, or the not happy orchard. Those are fine. Like if you're into that, you're into that. I love that for you. If you like something more dry, if you miss beer, those are really great substitutions, especially the Union.
That is something that we forgot to mention. All of the ciders are gluten-free, and so are the snacks.
And the staff. Just kidding. Only
half of them. So this is another question from the audience. You seem to partner quite a bit with nonprofits offering space for events. What drives this partnership on your end?
I think this would be common with any local business. One of the the thing that's keeping us afloat is community. Being a local Lincoln business, you want to invest in your people and your place. So I think we want to share any sort of success we've had or any of the support from the community that we get. As a thank you, we want to be able to reinvest that and give that back and be like, you know what, you guys are so great to us. We want to be able to open these doors to all of these other people and all of these other programs. It's a very also just a nice way to, people who come in are like, oh, it's my first time being here. It's like, okay, you're a first time customer here. This is a piece of like the Lincon community. We would love you to come back and then be able to further kind of pollinate, if you will.
But I think that it also speaks to the level of community involvement of the partners in the business, and the fact that there is a lot of community outreach happening from people who you don't see here that are involved in the business, and their outreach. My wife, the other partners who are here from time to time helping out as needed, but they have a pretty wide community outreach as well as some of the staff. And I think when you start with that and you're already involved in the community, then it's just sort of a natural sort of thing to be open to the idea of offering space to some. But with that said, we are a business, we are a tap room, so we have a unique space sort of for that. So we're kind of a gathering place in that way. And we are able to do private events. If you want to rent our space, we can do that as well. And we have different ways to do that that can accommodate some smaller groups as well as some larger groups. So we've had to say no to some people. We're certainly not bending over backwards for everybody that asks. It does have to make sense for us at some level as well. But I really think that the amount of community involvement that existed with the partners before we opened is really how I think speaks to that.
So I just have two more questions. How can Lincon keep supporting your small business and also other small businesses? Like, what would be some advice that you would give people?
I'm so glad you asked. First of all, thank you. Anybody who, whether you've been a lifelong contributor to local businesses or you're new to the game, thanks for coming and keep coming back. We love you. You're what keeps us going. So we at Saro, specifically for us, we have a website, sarocider.com, which through that website, you can see our menu, everything that we offer, our current hours, any sort of updates on, kind of like Eric said earlier, it changes daily sometimes. And then that's the link to the website where you can order things online. You can set your pickup time. So if you think, I'm going to order something for like my friend and have it delivered to their house, as long as they're of age and can prove that they're of age upon delivery. But you can order things online, set it for curbside pickup. You can set it to deliver to your house. You can still come in the tasting room. There is no on-site consumption. We have some limitations in place for your health and ours. We ask that community members wear a mask when you come inside. If you don't have that kind of equipment, you can call us from your car right outside, and we would be happy to fulfill your order, do payments over the phone, etc. A great way to look at what local businesses you can support is go on a nice, like, outside socially distant walk or bike ride down N Street and come look at our mural. That's where you can see there are so many businesses in Lincon who are supporting others, trying to support the community, and just trying to kind of keep it going. Order food from your favorite restaurants and just take it to go. Tip your servers, tip your bartenders, tip your everyones. And just, be, I think the biggest thing is to take a few minutes and remember that we all have the common goal. We all want the same thing. We all want to be able to continue life as normal as possible. And if that means we have to take a couple extra steps, just remember a little bit of patience and a little bit of understanding goes an incredibly long way.
Love it. Okay, last question. Saro has a great team with different people playing a lot of different roles. How has leadership played a positive role at Saro? I have to throw in a leadership question. You know, we're Leadership Lincoln. Whoop, whoop. Eric, this question's for you.
Well, I think that leadership is one of those things that's it's a fluid thing that we personally, I am successful at sometimes and I fail at sometimes. And I think, during this time, some of the things that I've sort of learned through just as many jobs as I've been in leadership positions, things like don't have someone do a job that you're not willing to do yourself, is a good thing, sort of a good policy to have. Don't expect people to work as hard as you think you work. Don't try to communicate things and forecast issues before they become an issue. I think has been one of the strong points of the leadership of this team here, has been to really, like we said earlier, things are changing so rapidly, and I feel like they're going to be changing again really rapidly, and we're going to have to just keep talking. And the more that you do that, the more receptive people seem to be, especially in this situation.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for being a part of this today.